Welcome to the DIY Wealth Canada podcast, a show by independent investors for independent investors. Join hosts Bob and Nelson as they discuss investing, personal finance, and much more, all from a fiercely self-reliant Canadian perspective. As a reminder, nothing you're about to hear is investment advice. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode DIY Wealth Canada podcast. I'm Bob, along with me is Nelson. Today we're going to talk about travel hacking. I know we talk a lot about investments and such, but today we decided to talk about travel hacking and how that could be a way to save money so you can use the money to invest. Nelson, are you excited about this episode?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one because you and I both travel quite a bit. And I think we've come up with some interesting hacks, ideas that we can pass on to people to let them travel cheaper, get more travel in, etc. And ultimately, a lot of people retire early and a lot of people invest and try to get ahead in order to free up time to do things like travel. I think if you ask people in their later years what their biggest regret is, I would say a lot of times it's they want to travel more and they just didn't get the opportunity to do that. So today's episode is going to be on not necessarily building wealth, but what you do once you do build wealth and how to be more effective in that travel spending.
Yeah, and I think travel hacking is relatively easy to do in Canada now. If you have access to US credit cards, that gives you a lot more options. Unfortunately, Canada being a smaller country or with lower population, the credit cards offers aren't as good compared to the US. So when we talk about travel hacking, the main one would be using credit cards, right? So utilizing these welcome bonuses to get points and so on. But there are other ways to travel hack as well. There's like a few things we could get into that as well. Why is travel hacking worthwhile? Personally, for me, I just find it very interesting, and we have been able to save quite a bit of money. Just to give some example, I'm sure Nelson, you could give some examples, right? We went to Maui a number of years ago, and we flew on airplane points, the entire family. So 4 of us on Air Canada, and then we stay at a Marriott hotel for, I think it was 12 nights, all on points. And the hotels were going for, I think, $600-$700 a night US. So you just calculate that. That's quite a bit of money you could save. We just recently went to Japan. I didn't buy the airfare entirely on points, but through travel hacking, I was able to reduce the airfare by about $900. We were there for almost 3 weeks. We stayed at 4 different hotels, and 3 of the hotels were all on points, right? So I think altogether was like those 3 hotels alone were like 10 grand. So yeah, we ended up saving quite a bit of money. Nelson, what about you? You have some examples?
Yeah, for me, it's more of on the hotel side. We've only just recently started getting into the airfare side. My wife is in charge of that. And so we have the KLM credit card. And so you put points on that. And I think we saved a couple $1,000s on flights to Europe. These were business class. That's right. We flew business class, but we got so cheaply because of our KLM card and the points that we have accumulated on that. And now she's opened up the WestJet card. We have not actually used that one yet in terms of redeeming any points, but that's her goal right now, is to earn as many points on that. And so it's really not super difficult in terms of getting these points. It's just a matter of just shifting your spending from one card to another card and then getting the points bonuses and et cetera. But my expertise is on the hotel side, and I use hotels.com. I'm a gold member of hotels.com. And then I combine that with Rakuten. And I apologize if I say that wrong, because I always say it wrong. It's a goofy program. But you combine those two and you can save anywhere from 15 to 20% on hotels. And of course, hotels.com gives you, at least for people that are grandfathered in like me, I'm not sure if you can do that plan today, but you buy 10 hotel rooms, you get the equivalent of one for free. So that's my end of the travel hacking in our household.
Cool. So let's just get into the basics, right? So the idea of travel hacking is, like Nelson said, typically means applying for a credit card. And typically some credit cards have welcome points, quite a bit of points, or either with Aeroplan or KLM or whoever. It could be a hotel program. And with these credit cards, there's a spending requirement. So quite often spend $3,000 for the first 3 months, you get X amount of points, right? TD may have a credit card with Aeroplan, so they may have something like apply today, you get 50,000 Aeroplan points if you spend 5,000 in the first 3 months. Or American Express, you may get 80,000 Aeroplan points if you spend 6,000 in the first 6 months, something like that. So the idea is you apply for these credit cards, you shift your spending from one credit card to the new credit card, hit the spending requirement, get the points, and then you put that credit card in a drawer. And then you cancel this credit card before end of the year. So most of these credit cards charge annual fees. Some of them do waive it for the first year, so you could get the card for free, hit your spending limit or spending requirement, and then get the points and then cancel it before you have to pay annual fees. And then you kind of repeat and cycle. Now, the thing you have to watch out is some of these companies, or actually most of these companies, are starting to catch on because obviously a lot of people travel hack and so on. More and more of these credit card companies are catching on and putting a restriction, like you can only apply this card every 6 months or whatever, right? So that's something to keep an eye on. Nelson, any other thoughts on that?
You got a really nice summary, Bob, and it's right on. I'll just add that one thing is often these cards will do promos to try to get more people to sign up. So it might be the typical promo would be, say, 20,000 Aeroplan points or whatever. And then TD looks at their credit card performance this quarter and it's kind of lacking. And so they will add a kind of a bonus on top of the bonus. And so it really pays for people to keep track of, just kind of keep an eye on the market and just see, okay, is the bonus better, et cetera. When we applied for our WestJet card, they were doing a promo through RBC, and I can't remember exactly what it is. Like I said, my wife is in charge of these, but she was telling me all about it. It's just like going to the grocery store. Every now and again, you get a sale, and that can really boost your rewards if you're smart and you're about it. Bob, let me ask you, pivot a little bit. And I know one of the criticisms of travel hacking in terms of the credit card side is that if you apply for too many credit cards, your credit gets dinged. Have you ever noticed that happening to you?
Yes and no. So the idea is you don't apply too many at the same time, right? When we apply, we spread it out, right? So maybe apply one every other month or something. Maybe that's too often for us. We typically only travel hack like 1 or 2 cards a year. So we're definitely not like at the extreme end of the spectrum. We're the average travel hacker, I would say. But yeah, I've seen credit score taking a hit, maybe a couple points or 5 points kind of thing. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I figure it's okay if I see my credit score drop a little bit. Nelson, have you seen that?
I have not, but we are probably a little bit less hardcore than even you, where it's like maybe like once a year we do it. And we've only really been doing it for the last kind of 2 to 3 years on that. But I have not seen my credit score drop at all. But saying that, I am the first to admit that I do not pay attention to my credit score anymore. I'm at the point where credit is a sort of a nice to have basis. And the only reason why I would apply for another credit card is to do travel hacking or some sort of hacking. And if they were to turn me down because of I've been applying for too many cards, like it would be a little bit of a disappointment, but not much. So I would maybe say to just kind of everyone listening that, yeah, as long as you don't go nuts, I don't see any potential issue with this. Don't apply for multiple cards every year. And even if you do, it's going to be hard to hit those minimum spends anyway, unless you're really big spenders. Just pace yourself and be patient and wait for the best deals would be what I would say.
Yeah, and I think another way to do is if you're married or you have a partner, you could do two-player mode, right? So you apply for one, your wife or partner apply for one, or husband, switch it up a little bit. It's not just on one person. So with two-player mode, you can also accumulate a lot more points a lot quicker. And also you mentioned about the spending requirement. That's definitely something to watch out for. Lately, I've seen the requirement numbers have been creeping up a little bit more and more, which you really need to plan. Like if you know you have a big ticket item that you're planning to buy, for example, a flight, or if you're getting a new fridge, or you're getting your car repair, or even house insurance, car insurance, maybe that's, if they're all within the 3 months period or whatever, maybe that's worthwhile to plan and get a new credit card with the nice bonus and then hit your spending requirement. I was just looking at Amex, American Express. They have increased their spending requirement quite a bit. Like I think on their platinum card, used to be you have to spend 5,000 in the first 3 months. I'm dating myself here, but now I think it's like 10,000 for the first 3 months on the personal card. So it's not very easy to hit once those numbers get quite high. So you really need to plan it. What you don't want to do is spending for the sake of hitting this requirement and you end up getting into debt or something. That's just silly.
I remember hearing, Bob, about in the United States that people would do, I think it was like manufactured spending, it was called. And so they would do things like buy currency, buy precious metals at the bank using this credit card, maybe through the post office. I can't remember. And basically just taking them and returning them back to the bank, putting them back in their account to hit these minimum spends. Have you ever heard of there being anything like this in Canada? Are there ways for people to hack these spend limits and hit them without actually hitting them? Do you know of any strategies that people could use?
Oh, for sure. So one of the easiest way would be getting gift cards, right? So you could buy tons of gift cards and then you could use the gift cards later. That's one way to do it. There's been ways of people, this is not technically allowed. And I think the companies are catching on to that as well. That now some people, they may book something like a flight or something, get their bonus points and then use it. And then they later on, or maybe a flight, but like a hotel booking, for example, and then later on cancel it and they get the money back. I think most of these, if you were to do that, I think most of the credit card companies will take the points back, which you don't want. There are a few ways, and the precious metal thing that works. I think it takes a little bit more work, and with precious metal, because the price isn't fixed, you may end up losing money a little bit. So I don't know if it's worthwhile doing that. So I think with the spending requirements, for us at least, we typically kind of plan it and then make sure we could hit it. The other thing to keep in mind with these spending requirements, if you were to apply for a Visa or a MasterCard, typically it's easy because basically everybody accepts credit card or MasterCard. I've noticed with American Express, not every merchant accepts American Express. So you may be limited in terms of where you could use your American Express card, and therefore you may be having a harder time to hit that spending requirement. Right? You may think, okay, I'm going to pay for my car insurance with this new American Express credit card, but then turns out your insurance company doesn't take American Express, then out of luck. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
That's actually a really good point. I know Amex has come a long way in terms of people taking it and et cetera, but you're definitely right. There are places that don't. And my understanding from the merchant side is that the swipe fees on Amex used to be a lot more than Visa and MasterCard. I think they've come down and they're a little more equal now, but definitely something very important to consider. Bob, let me ask you, in terms of, is there a credit card company, without maybe getting into too much detail about individual offers or whatever, but is there one that you go back to like time and time again where it's, okay, I'm going to do this and then I go away for a while, then I'm going to do it again and then go away for a while? Have you done anything like that? Or do you just cycle through like a new card every time?
It depends. So here in Canada, Nelson, you could chime in as well. I find here in Canada, there are three big points you could accumulate. right? One would be Aeroplan. That's through Air Canada. Sorry, make that four. On the flight side, airfare side would be Aeroplan with Air Canada. And then there's WestJet. With Aeroplan, there are more options, right? So you have TD, CIBC, there might be American Express that offer Aeroplan cards that you get welcome points. Now, I think Aeroplan or Air Canada has put in a limit where there's with these Aeroplan cards, there's like personal, business, and there's like different levels. One, there's like the basic personal, like the mid-tier personal, and there's like the high-end personal one, and vice versa on business. And I think Aeroplan has put in a limitation where you can only get bonus point once per level. So you used to be able to apply, say, TD Plan Visa and then get the welcome points, and then you apply again on the CIBC side, get the welcome points again, and then you apply on Amex and get the welcome points again. Aeroplan is putting a restriction where if you apply for the TD Aeroplan Visa, you can apply the same tier of car. You could apply the same tier of car on CIBC side, but you're not going to get any bonus points. So they're putting a restriction there. And then another thing they put in, it's a once in a lifetime bonus as well. So once you get it, you can't get it again. There's been talks about that. There's like a duration restriction, maybe it's 5 years or whatever, but I don't know. I haven't tested out yet. Now with Aeroplan, they have also been catching, like closing people's account or freezing people's Aeroplan accounts if they suspect you're travel hacking. So again, that's something to keep an eye out. So there's a few things, right? With WestJet, I think it's all done through Royal Bank. So they have a Royal Bank credit card, and you get WestJet dollars that you could use. And then the credit card give you like companion passes and stuff if you hit a certain spending number. So that's worthwhile. But with WestJet, there's not as many routes to choose from compared to Air Canada. So Aeroplans may be a little bit more flexible in that sense. And then the third one would be the American Express points, right? So you would apply American Express credit cards, and typically they would give you American Express points, Amex points. So you could go get like the Platinum card, the Gold card. There used to be a Rose card, Blue card, etc. Those give you American Express points. The nice thing with American Express points is that you could transfer them to other places, right? So you could transfer them to Aeroplan, you could transfer them to Marriott, or you could transfer them to, I think, British Airways, etc. And some of them are not 1-to-1. It might be like 1-to-1.5 or so on. So there's different conversion rates. So that's another big one in Canada. And then the fourth one we've been travel hacking quite a bit is with Marriott. So American Express has two different cards that gives you Marriott points, the personal card and the business card, and you could get welcome points there. So that's another kind of the big one in Canada, MX points. Now there are other maybe smaller ones like the KLM. I think that's through Brin Bank or something.
Yeah,
maybe not as popular, but there's other ones, right? So yeah, there's different points, and really just need to figure out what's worthwhile. For us, we find Aeroplan, I don't know, people say it's great, you get business class and so on. Personally, I haven't find that attractive. Maybe it's just me. I also find Aeroplan points is a little bit more restrictive because if you really want to fly a certain date, you may not find the flight you need or you want. So with Aeroplan, I think you need to be a lot more flexible in order to book these like really enticing deals. With Marriott, I find that's really good because you could just find hotels, and then Marriott has, if you stay 5 nights, you only need to use 4 nights worth of points. Nelson, anything to add?
I have a little bit to add about the WestJet one, because like I said earlier, we are on that one. And what we found with that one is it steadily gets worse kind of every year in terms of the even companion fares and things like that. It used to be where companion fares were free. Now I think I believe it's like either $99 or $199 for the companion fare, which isn't, of course, then you have to pay the taxes on top of that. So it's gotten a little bit worse, but it's the same scenario where you get in, you get your bonus points, you use your bonus points, and you get out for a little while. And I'm not sure what the status is on we were talking about, like with Aeroplan, where they shut you down if you try to do it over and over again. I don't know what the status is there, but KLM, that is Brim Financial. Like I said, we are still members of that one. My wife has not canceled her card. You get bonus points every year, and we found that even with the annual fee, that the bonus points are like you're getting more value for the bonus points every year that is above and beyond the annual fee. So we're happy to keep that as more of a long-term card because we're getting benefit from that. And just in general, I would say that these smaller ones that you might not be sure exist, you have to gain market share somehow. And those guys are probably going to be a little bit more aggressive versus a Aeroplan, because of course everybody likes Aeroplan. But at the same time, we were attracted to the KLM one because KLM has a direct Edmonton to Amsterdam flight. Normally we have to go through Calgary to get any sort of flight to Asia, really anywhere. Like Calgary's the hub for the prairies. You've got Vancouver, Bob, which is nice, and we've got Calgary. So we really value that direct flight to Amsterdam when we do go. And we're willing to stick around with KLM because of that alone. And then the points are obviously a big factor as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in terms of WestJet, yeah, we have had that car many times. And I think it used to be, still $120 a year annual fee. You get WestJet dollars. So I think typically you get $350 or $400. So you get some money out of it. What we have done is the canceling it at before the year ends up. You could actually do a switch on Royal Bank's website. So you could switch from WestJet card to their Avion card. And typically the Avion card, you also get welcome points right away with like maybe one spending or something. And then you could transfer the Avion card points to WestJet. So you could accumulate WestJet points that way. With WestJet, again, similar to Air Canada or Aeroplan, I don't find it as attractive, maybe because we are in Vancouver. There's not as many routes available with WestJet in terms of international, right? International, WestJet flies direct via Calgary typically. Yeah, so that's one way to do it. I'm just looking at some of the top credit cards in Canada, and I mentioned American Express, right? So right now, when we record this, there is a welcome bonus of 110,000 rewards points after you you would earn 80,000 MX points once you spend $10,000 the first 3 months. And then you get another 30,000 points once you spend in month 13. So a lot of these credit card companies are catching on that people are canceling before a year is up. So they now have these like bonuses, or if you spend X amount in month 13 or 14 or 15, then you get extra points. And they're really trying to hold on to those cards for longer than a year. So you pay these annual fees, right? So like, for example, American Express, the annual fee is $7.99. It's not like small. Now, another thing we have not mentioned is a lot of these credit cards, because you're paying annual fees, again, some annual fees are waived, you get some pretty nice perks, right? So the American Express Platinum card, you get $200 annual travel credit, you get $200 annual dining credit, you get $100 NX credit, and then you could get into lounges, right? Airport lounges. So those are nice perks, and it lowers down the annual fee. But even for ones like the TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite card, for example, has an annual fee $139. Right now they have a promotion where the first year is free. So, you could get that card for free, right? So the way TD lays out their bonuses is that you get 10,000 Aeroplan points on first purchase, 15,000 once you spend 3,000 in the first 3 months, and then 20,000 once you have spent $12,000 in the first 12 months. So again, you can see they're structuring this to make sure you hold on to the card and actually use it. But in addition to these points, the TD Aeroplan Visa Infinite card, you get free check bag for Air Canada up to 8 companions. So again, you could save money on the checked-in luggage. There's $100 Nexus rebate every 48 months, and so on, right? So it's not just about getting points and use them, but there's also these nice perks that you could utilize with these credit cards. So it's nice.
Yeah, ultimately, it comes down to if you're travel hacking, if you have the means to try to figure out ways to save money on international travel, chances are you're a pretty good customer for the banks anyway. And there's certainly a case for just finding one of these and sticking with it and getting those perks like we talked about the WestJet card earlier. Same thing with the WestJet card is you get a certain number of check bags and everything when you go, which is something that is worth, like, what is it to check a bag now? I think it's $40 or $50. That's a perk that is definitely worth something. And it might be something that you would consider where it's okay, like maybe I am going to keep this card over the long term, maybe like a few years, and like that way you maximize the rewards before you pivot to the other one. But I want to go on a little bit of a rant here because I think that giving people access to the airline lounges has cheapened the airline lounge experience significantly. It's gotten to the point where I almost go out of my way to not go to the lounge. You have to wait to get in. I don't find that the food is very good anymore. They're always extremely full, extremely noisy. Bob, what are your thoughts on the lounge? Do you regularly go, or are you with me where I just think it's so overrated these days?
I was just going to say that I know some people, once you use the lounge, you never go back. For me, it's nice to go, but yeah, it's super crowded nowadays. And some lounges are better than other. Like I mentioned, we were in Japan and we were flying out from Haneda, and I read reviews of the lounge. I think can't remember the name, but the reviews I read is it's a terrible lounge. And I have a few lounge passes that's going to expire soon. So I was like, we might as well use it. And we went in with a very low expectation. They were serving instant cup noodle. Like you actually had to pour hot water yourself. Like I never seen that in a lounge. And then the tables were dirty. There was like nobody walking around cleaning the tables. And then, like the food was not great, but it was quiet. That was nice. You could get away from the business of the airport. But yeah, I think it's overrated. Now, some lounges are better than the other. Even Air Canada Lounge. I like Air Canada lounges, especially domestic ones. I don't find that interesting. Even the international ones, I don't know. It's not like super great because there's so many people there. You have a really tough time finding a seat, especially if you're traveling with your family. But there are some better lounges. Like I've been to the American Express lounge in Hong Kong. Now that's a nice lounge. You take a really nice shower. Food was great. The San Francisco Amex lounge was pretty good as well. But yeah, I think overcrowded is an issue, generally speaking. And now with Amex, at least they're now limiting how many people could get into these lounges. Used to be, if you have an Amex Platinum card, you could bring in as many people as you want. And now they're like, only one guest. And I think they actually changed it now, so you can't even bring any guests in. When you're traveling with a family, it's just, I don't want to just go in the lounge by myself and leave my family behind. So that's tough.
That's not going to make you very popular with the wife, is it?
No, for sure.
I will say that I went to the United Lounge in Bogota when I was there. I upgraded my flight. I was connecting through Houston on the way back, and I was only able to do the one upgrade, actually, the Houston to Calgary, and then Calgary to Edmonton. But I wasn't able to do the Houston to Calgary upgrade because that's a very popular route with oil guys, and their companies pay for the upgrade. So anyway, I wasn't able to upgrade that, but I did upgrade the first leg of that journey. And the United Lounge in Bogota was fantastic. The food was great. It was quiet. The seats were comfortable. I regretted not getting up earlier to hang out in that lounge for a little while longer. That's how good it was. But let me pivot to, we talk a lot about flights, Bob, is there anything that you do in terms of a hotel travel hacking besides the Marriott card? I know that other hotel chains do have their own credit cards. Have you looked into any of them, or are you just a Marriott guy? I know a couple of friends who do have the Marriott one, and they are both like, we're good. We're not going to look for any other hotels. We're happy to just continue with Marriott. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, with Marriott, I'm a Marriott guy because I travel quite a bit for work and everybody at work use Marriott. So I follow the crowd with them, and I got a credit card a while ago. And the nice thing with the credit card here in Canada, you get 15 nights added to your annual night. And the magic is 15 nights, right? Once you hit 15 nights, you're a platinum member at Marriott. And why platinum? Once you hit platinum, you can get into their hotel lounges. You can get free breakfast. Sometimes they have appies, etc. You get upgrades and such, right? So it's worthwhile getting. Maybe not when you're traveling alone on business, but when you're traveling for family vacation, it's nice. So again, for example, in Japan that we just went on, we were staying in a Marriott property by Mount Fuji. I used points to book one room. It was like 2 double beds. And this hotel, their higher category rooms have in-room onsen, which is in-room hot spring. And when I checked in, I was like, hey, is it possible to upgrade us? And because I have status, they're like, oh, yeah, we could see what we could do. And when we checked in, they were like, yeah, we upgraded you to a room with in-room onsen. We're like, oh, this is great. And king-size bed and another bed so we could fit 4 people in the room. And what we didn't realize was because we checked in at night, the next morning when we woke up and opened the curtain, we had a view of Mount Fuji. Oh. The room we booked was on the other side of the hotel, so we wouldn't have a view. So these kind of little perks is nice. And then, of course, the 4 of us got breakfast for free. And if anything, hotel breakfasts are not cheap nowadays. You could easily rack up $40, $50, $60 a person. That adds up pretty quickly. So yeah, I'm the Marriott guy. I happen to have lifetime status with Marriott. Unfortunately, that means I travel quite a bit. So yeah, it's nice to have. And I thought about maybe going to Hyatt or someone else, but I just decided to stay with Marriott. They have quite a bit of properties around the world. Yeah, and then I mentioned the points, right? You book 5 nights, you only need 4 nights of points. So that's nice. Having said that, with Marriott and Hyatt, I think everybody, the amount of points you need to use to book a room has gone up over the years. So it's the same for airplane too, right? Everything is getting devalued. So that's something to keep in mind. So we have good successes with Marriott so far. I know like Best Western has that, but I just don't stay with them really at all when I go business travel. And then hotel.com, that's something worthwhile as well. You book 10 nights, you get 1 night for free. There are a few different systems. There's also Airbnb. They don't really have a point system, so unfortunately you can't really travel hack your way via Airbnb. Yeah, Nelson, what are your experience with hotels?
So I exclusively use hotels.com, and I would be a Marriott guy. I think their program is fantastic. The credit card is good. Bob, you mentioned all those perks that you got, and I should be able to obviously not get the perks you do because you're traveling for business, but get to the point where I could get some from Marriott anyway, but I don't because I've been a hotels.com guy for probably close to 15 years now exclusively. And so I signed up originally, and it was, you got the buy 10 nights, get 1 for free. And that was immediately like a very good plan. Like 10% off every hotel room that you'll ever get is, I think, pretty, like when you look at like a lot of the other, like the Best Western one and stuff like that, like these ones are not as good as the hotels.com one. Now, admittedly, I don't keep that close to track because I'm loyal right now. Like I'm in the program, doesn't cost me anything, etc. So I'm not looking for alternatives. So saying that, it's better than just 10 for 1 for a couple of reasons. One is when you get to gold status is 30 nights of hotels per year, you get exclusive deals for gold members. And so sometimes, most of the time, actually, that's like a good 20, 30, 40% off hotels that are looking to get rid of some rooms. It's almost this sort of like they've identified you as a likely traveler. You go, you browse, they offer you exclusive deals on that perspective. And what I like about that is that I can go into a city and I can say, hey, show me the deals. And I get to pick whatever kind of property I want. Where if I'm limited to, say, a Marriott, which is usually not such a bad thing because Marriott's, they're well located, et cetera. But I can go through all the choices and I can say, okay, this one's located very close to the metro. I like that. I value that versus maybe something that isn't. So then on top of that, what I do is I use Rakuten, and they often have deals on top of the gold member deals. And you go in, you pay attention, they email you constantly, which is a little bit annoying, but basically you just keep an eye on it when you're looking to book some travel. You've got your flight booked, you know when you're going, and then you just wait for the offers to come in, and they will generally give you anywhere from sort of 3% to 10% cash back for hotels.com. And you can stack those two loyalty programs on top of each other. So really what it works out to is an average of kind of between 13 to 17, 18%, depending on the deal. I once did get 20% off. They were offering, Rakuten was offering 10% on London, England hotels. And then I had my 10% back as well. So that was quite a good deal that I ended up getting there. So you have to be patient, and I'm not even sure if this is something that you can sign up for today, whether it's been closed to new members, but check it out and see what you can get. Even if you can't get the 10 for 1, hotels.com does something, and then you can get the Rakuten on top of that. So it works out not too badly.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned like 4 point systems that you could accumulate in Canada. There are also some other ones, like I forgot, Scene Plus is another one that's pretty popular. That's via Scotiabank. And there's RBC Rewards. TD has their own as well. I forgot what it's called. TD Expedia points, I think. They all have a little bit of restriction because, for example, TD Expedia points, you have to book through their Expedia site to maximize your earn rate. I think Scene similarly as well. You could maybe redeem against travel, so on. So yeah, you want to accumulate points. That's the most flexible way that you could use, right? Like some of them, if you redeem on one category, you have a little bit lower earn rate, which is not great. Another thing to keep in mind is a lot of these point system have you could transfer, right? So for example, I mentioned American Express, you could transfer to Aeroplan, and Marriott. I think RBC, you could transfer to British Airways or WestJet. And sometimes there are promotions. So for example, you transfer, say, 10,000 points, you get 20% bonus or 50% bonus. So that's worthwhile if like specific things that you're trying to use the points for, right? So for example, maybe you're trying to book a flight on business through British Airways, and so you would transfer points over there. Now, I don't know why you would want to fly with British Airways, but that's another topic. So yeah, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, we only talk about travel hacking. Another thing that's very popular, maybe it's not called travel hacking, but there are also cards that give you cash back, right? So you could get maybe 1% cash back, 2%, 3%. Typically 2% is the highest there. So that's another way to earn money through spending, and then you could use that earn money traveling. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I'll just quickly add to that. I have a Simply cashback credit card, and it gives me 4% cash back on restaurants and then 1.5% back at the grocery stores or whatever. So I use that when I'm traveling, and I make sure that when we go to a restaurant, our restaurant spending gets put on that card. We're getting the maximum cash back on that, which there's a limit. I think it's like $5,000 per year of restaurant spending, but still, like, that's $200 off restaurant spending. But I know we're just about out of time, Bob, but let me ask you quickly, we talked a lot about credit cards and the ways to do that. Are there any non-credit card ways to hack. I know my wife is extremely vigilant. She's on Google Flights constantly looking for deals. We've got some great deals by her doing that. So I know that's kind of one way that you can do that. Is there any other ways you can think of where it's like you can just use your spare time, use your knowledge or whatever to save money on travel without having to sign up for credit cards?
Yeah, for sure. There's actually may be another episode to talk about, but there's so many different podcasts and websites dedicated to that. Right? Like there's the Google Flights, but there's like other tools and programs that some of them you have to pay, and they will actually search for best redemption routes, etc. There's so much stuff you could talk about on that topic, but on the sort of not really entry level, but like on something easy to do, yeah, Google Fly is great. I think there used to be a website called hotdeal.com, Hot Deals or Hot Deal, where you could get these hotels or cars because hotels, they have rooms available and you can get it like really, really cheap. The only caveat is that you don't really know where the hotel is or which hotel it is. They kind of,
you're talking Hotwire.
Hotwire, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like they give you like a little circle, like this is approximately where the hotel is. So I used that before. There are various ways to do that with hotels. I think there are some programs you could find like the best hotel, like hotels.com certainly do that. But I think there are tools that kind of look between like hotels.com, Expedia, etc. to find you the best hotel deals. So there's so many different tools, and with AI, you could probably get AI to do that for you too. Yeah, I feel like it's getting easier and easier to travel hack nowadays, at least on the finding good deals part. Used to be very manual, but now there's so many tools, and with AI, you could do that. But again, I think ultimately it's about how flexible you can be. If you're very flexible, you could certainly find some really good deals. Now, if you can only go for your trip, say like in the summer because of kids, then you're a little bit restricted that way because that's the hot season for traveling and everything is inflated a little bit. Being flexible is good. And yeah, I think ultimately with travel hacking, it's a little bit fun, right? Getting points. If you're going to spend money, get that extra points is nice. And I think with travel hacking, it's really just, you need to plan it a little bit, right? As long as you plan a little bit, it's nice to get that extra.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The fun of travel hacking is sticking it to the man and getting to do something that you enjoy at the same time. So anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up here. This was a great episode. I quite enjoyed it. I think that it's a lot of fun to travel hack and to try to find these deals, but ultimately it's just gets us where we want to go with a little bit less money out of our pocket, a little bit more money that we can put aside to invest. And ultimately, that's the goal, is to get ahead, but also have a good time traveling as well. Bob, any last thoughts before we go?
No, I think there's so many websites and tools available. So just search for travel hacking and you could go down the rabbit hole pretty quickly. Yeah, just try that once and then see. If you haven't done it, try it once and see how that works out for you. But even if you don't want to get into the credit card application side, just use some of these tools, right? Google Flights. Like, I would not book a flight without checking Google Flights, especially if you're a little bit flexible. Sometimes, like, if you move your travel day a day or two to the left or right, you could save quite a bit of money. I've seen that where we're saving over $1,000 just by moving our days around a little bit. So that's definitely worthwhile to check out.
Exactly. Really simple. You can make this as complicated or as simple as you want. And even on the simple side, you can save money. So anyway, Bob, as always, thanks for joining me. Thanks everyone for listening. And we will talk to you again next week.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe to never miss another episode. For more from Bob, visit his site at tawcan.com. That's TAWCAN, all one word. Nelson can be found at CanadianDividendInvesting.com. They're both on Twitter as well. Just search for Tawcan or CDI Newsletter. Thanks. See you next time.